the only wrestling podcast with the same wrestling allotment as WWE. This is Whacked Out Wrestling. Hello, everybody, and this is the Thursday show of Whacked Out Wrestling, the show that puts the whacked out in wrestling. I'm Thomas S.K. Green, and we have back Joey the Caveman with us.
What up?
And, of course, the producer and statistician of us, John Roche.
How you doing?
Okay, and this week was pretty big on it because we had one show on a show that was a pay-per-view from the progressive city of Melbourne, which actually is progressive this time, which is always a plus on this one. And right now it's going to, if any of the rumors going on and the claims they're going through are true, then you're getting to the point where $42 million becomes more dirty money than before. And I think that the fact that the stock apparently dropped to $82, which doesn't seem like much from where it was, but could be $1 billion drop right there, is proof that they're eventually going to have to decide whether that price is valuable to them or not.
Money talks and bullshit walks? Pretty
much, so. And that's really the weakness on it, because it seems like WWE was doing so well for the Saudi Arabian government beforehand. We saw it with Greatest Royal Rumble, where people were pissed off by them showing the Best of Both Worlds commercial for the pay-per-views that happened to show women wrestlers in the commercial. And the Saudi government was furious at WWE for that. But the people of Saudi Arabia loved it so much, within a week, the Saudi sports government said, not only are we fine with it, we're letting women play sports. So there is proof that those WWE going to Saudi Arabia is helping things along just a little bit. But how much can you do on these things?
It depends on who's in charge, and it depends on whether whoever's running Saudi Arabia are more traditionalists or progressivists. We'll just have to see.
Yeah, and that's really the big thing on it, because we know at least the WWE's hands seem to be clean in this instance, because the more positives are happening there than negatives on the WWE side. But still, $42 million is a real question mark there.
Right.
But that goes to the actual show that went through with this one. And we have a number of different things for it. On this one, and Super Showdown, we got basically into it from the beginning one with Global Warning on Sunday, but the show on this one was good. If you wonder if these live events from other countries are glorified house shows, look at the cards again from Global Warning versus this one, and you'll see they're not house shows at all. These are pay-per-view quality events. First match you had. What?
Well, WWE's had a history of making special house shows in different countries, so why would it be any different?
Well, yeah, but the difference was that you can tell when you're just seeing a house show, or when you're seeing a TV quality event, or when you're seeing a pay-per-view quality event.
Gotcha.
But there was cases like the Global Warning where you had Val Venus of people who could barely be asked to give a shit about playing his gimmick. And that guy was always in gimmick.
Val Venus came back?
No, this was from Global Warning.
He came back for that?
It was a 2002.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that Val Venus won't go well, but apparently if the rumors that Trump is trying to legalize weed are true, he might be back sooner or later, so...
He's aged well, so I mean it could work again.
Yep. Yeah, though I don't know how aged well the porn star gimmick would ever be in wrestling right now. So
yeah,
go get well, yeah. I mean, it depends on like the Attitude Era. You can get away with having Jenna Jameson in your vignettes introducing them, but I don't know if I don't know if we're gonna have that again. I mean, do you guys see any signs of like a resurgence of the Attitude Era at all? Like,
Honestly, I don't think so, because the one thing to realize about the Attitude Era was if you watch Attitude Era wrestling now, it is incredibly dated.
No. I'm not talking about like, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like pushing the envelope and shit.
Honestly, right now, I don't think we're going to see much pushing the envelope on these things because there's not so much that's going to work for pushing the envelope. The most we're going to see for pushing the envelope from what we have now is maybe in the next few years we get intergender wrestling, and that's not likely because it happens that Triple H happens to dislike intergender, which is a fair argument on that side.
Yeah.
And judging by the success of Charlotte and ESPN the magazine, we're probably going to get WWE sending people to the SI swimsuit issue or ESPN body issue. That's probably the most that we're going to see to a more pushing the envelope one. And considering that Ronda Rousey and Charlotte Flair have both done it already, it's not unlikely both asked for someone.
Didn't Tori Wilson do like SI swimsuit issue back when she was in WCW or even WWF?
I don't believe she did, no.
I swear I remember one of those girls doing one of those back then. I know Sable did Playboy.
Yeah.
Didn't Tori Wilson also do Playboy?
Yeah, she also did.
Yes, she did. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like another thing back to the Super Showdown thing, it does seem like, because I remember a few of these matches, they were actually doing build up to the matches in this show, not only on like the free TV like Raw and SmackDown, but also on at Hell in a Cell they actually had some of the matches here were like settling up from previous matches at Hell in a Cell. Like Charlotte and Becky was a rematch to that. AJ and Joe was a rematch.
Right. Yeah. But that's also partially the fact that they just had too many shows in the same one. Like, for instance, when you go with Becky and Charlotte, you knew that they were going to have Hell in a Cell and there would probably be a match there. But you also knew they were going to fight it at Super Showdown and fight at Evolution. So that's 3 matches in the series that you already know a month in advance. And that's not a good thing.
They're pushing.
It's too thin.
Yeah, I mean, they're pushing it ad nauseum. I think that's kind of the bad side about today. Like back when we were kids and Superstars and Challenge was on TV, these matches were like special treats or even built up to the pay-per-views, which are like like every 3 or 4 months. And now, because of the saturation, we get the matches fast and furious right away. I think it would do the WWE favors if they would cut back a bit. I mean, I'm not saying go back to how it was in the 80s, but you got to have some happy medium going here. Well, some people argue that WWE should do what Japan does, where New Japan, correct me if I'm wrong, they do 6 weeks on, 6 weeks off. Some people argue WWE should do that.
Honestly, it's not just those ones, but the big problem is that if WWE was willing to change their storylines a little bit, there wouldn't be a problem. Like, for instance, the fact they killed the brand split for their big events is probably the issue here. Because take, for example, this one. How much would it have changed if, for example, Super Showdown was a Raw pay-per-view and Hell in a Cell was a SmackDown pay-per-view? Suddenly you don't have, or vice versa. Suddenly, if you do that, most of the Raw matches have more time at Hell in a Cell, and they seem big. And most of the SmackDown matches seem big for that one as well.
Right.
And that really ties into it, where I don't think they should cut the pay-per-views on it, but rather do it differently. Ideally, if I was doing it, you'd have a weekly event. 1 week it's Raw. 1 week it's SmackDown. 1 week it's 1 week every 2 months. It alternates between NXT and 205 Live. 1 week they do an in-your-house style weekly pay-per-view that's just built on one niche match. Like, for instance, November you have an all Survivor Series traditional matches. October you have the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view be just on that one with all the matches in the cell, things like that. And then 5th weeks of the thing, you have the big events that are interbrand.
We'll text them or email them that idea and let's see what happens.
Well, it is wrestling, so we're clearly the WWE is listening to every podcast out there.
Oh, are they?
Mm-hmm.
And how would you know?
No comment.
Right. Okay, then.
But back to this.
Bring back Nails, goddammit!
Mm-hmm. Don't worry about it. They'll have plenty of convicts to go around. Hell, they did just have a show in Australia, so.
Nails, Nathan Jones tag team for the win.
I'd like to apologize to the people of Australia for that comment.
Yes. But the rest of the show.
Nathan Jones was a prisoner in Australia.
That is true. He was a. I think I read somewhere that he was one of the most wanted men in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
The Colossus of Bago Road.
Yeah. Well, we have to find a way to apologize to the Australians on this one for a great Super Showdown there on this one. So while we're doing this, we'll find our way to apologize with these ones. We can have Nails and Nathan Jones. So in honor of the Australian people, now is the time on WoW when we dance with something based on one of their countrymen here.
Uh-oh.
As long as it comes up.
This ought to be good.
And it freezes up because that's what the problem is.
Well, it was very recently winter in Australia until a few weeks ago.
Bananarama?
Yeah.
I thought they were from England. I don't mean to be that guy, but I just Wikipedia'd them, and they are from England.
Yep. Then how can they be making Nathan Jones' theme song here?
I don't know. All I know is Emma/Tennille Dashwood has come out to Venus from them.
Yep. But yes, back through these ones, you have the rest of Super Showdown. You had the New Day versus the Bar, and that's one of the pluses of the tag team division, where going back to is the Attitude Era better or not, the New Day versus the Bar has been putting on some of the best tag team feuds of all time. Like, you can't think of a really bad tag team feud right now. And it's not since 2000 when you had one where pretty much every tag team can be considered good on the show.
How do you think the New Day would have been in the Attitude Era? That would be interesting.
Honestly, it would be interesting on this one because
I think they could pull it off.
Too much of a risk they would have been the New Nation on it, but they would be more dynamic by just letting them be the cool black nerds that they already are. So
I would say they'd feud with the Nation.
Yeah, and that's much better than anything like generic "I'm black and I'm angry" could have been in this with the Nation stuff that went through.
Not to make it sound topical or anything, but with the political climate and everything, I think a New Nation gimmick could work right now.
Honestly, that's the problem where I think the climate got too political beforehand. Like, remember, in 2014, they were going to be the New Nation, but then Ferguson happened, and there was no way you're getting away with that in that climate.
So you're saying in 4 years, nothing's changed?
Pretty much, no. Nothing's changed. It's just gotten more militant on every side out there.
Because God forbid we offend anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, we get too. What happened? I mean, I've always said, I'm not meaning to go on a tangent, and I'm gonna stop this train after going about a couple miles down the road. But you know what? I gotta say this right now. I think all this bullshit with political correctness and everything, yeah, there was the first wave in the 90s, but all this stuff about like, oh, I'm offended or oh, I'm triggered and all that shit. This is because these motherfuckers were born and raised in the goddamn 1990s where everything was extreme and in your face. So what do you expect? Because, no, honestly, what do you expect? Because with everything extreme and in your face, they did not have a chance to breathe or anything. So, of course, they're going to grow up and be like this and want safe spaces and stuff. And there's nothing wrong with safe spaces, but the extreme that it's gotten, this has just gotten ridiculous.
Honestly, it's more of a problem where I don't even think it's that thing, but rather it's the exact opposite, where that has caused a lot of this problems right now, because of the fact that the whole thing about living in this one is you are supposed to find ways to deal with people who are decidedly not like you in any way. People who have differences of opinion. People who are different for different races or creeds or gender identities or sexual orientations or religions or fandoms than you. People who are not in your echo chamber, you have to find a way to not beat them up or not want to kill them because they're different from you. That is what society is. And yet people have gotten into this echo chamber, and because they're in that echo chamber, eventually two things come in. And no matter what you say about power being in racism or things like that, racism boils down to two things. One is the belief that you are inherently superior to someone else because you are X and they are not, or you are, and that fact alone makes you superior to that person. And
I thought that was stupid.
And afterwards, this related topic to that you believe that because this person is Y and you are X, the fact that they are Y makes you inherently better and them inherently subhuman. That is what racism is to a whole point. And because everybody's in an echo chamber, that's how people exist right now.
And I always thought racism was stupid because of that. I mean,
yeah.
If you know what, for fuck's sake, we have what do we have? All those 23andMe and those different DNA sites where you see what race you are, and most people are so multiracial it ain't funny.
Yeah.
So essentially, you're gonna want to be racist against yourself.
Well, of course, but even then, it's just.
I think, didn't something like that happen with some like white supremacist where he took a test
on a TV show where a white supremacist found out he was 14% North African.
Oh, okay. I thought
it wasn't like the Dave Chappelle skit. This was an actual thing that happened in real life.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Move on to wrestling. I didn't mean to hijack this.
No problem. No problem. It's always, this is why it's the Thursday show. So after that, you had the New Day fighting the Bar, and that one was another one of these great matches because the tag team scene is better than 2000 in my opinion, because it's just as lit as the 2000 tag team scene was, but they don't need TLC matches every time to do it. If they do, they just are part of it and aren't necessary. It said something that with SmackDown, you could argue every one of the 6 teams in the division are worthy of being at the WrestleMania match, but only 3 of them could get in. And that is something that a lot of wrestling fans right now need to know, because for all of Road Dogg's faults that you may give him for things like that, he had some bad lines on these things. He had those ones. He doesn't make your platonic ideal the face of the company. The man is amazing at booking tag team wrestling. The guy knows just what works and what doesn't, and this is an amazing tag team division because of it.
Road Dogg's booking it?
Yeah, Road Dogg's one of the head writers on SmackDown.
What's Billy Gunn doing?
He was last seen in All In, but he was a trainer, and a trainer who got fired for using steroids during powerlifting competitions.
And was that his son? That was his son at All In. What's going on with his son? Is his son going to get signed by WWE?
It wouldn't shock me if he was, but right now Billy Gunn's training his son, and considering he's second generation, and most of the big names in it or second generation get in, especially if they're friends with the family. I wouldn't be surprised if he's in WWE when he wants it. So
how many Hindu?
Pretty good at All In. So
how many Hindu squats and Hindu push-ups and bridges do you think Billy's making his son do?
No clue, but Billy Gunn was the best pure athlete in WWE, so that's a good.
He was legit a basketball player and a track guy. He had legit skills.
Yeah. Yeah, so there is a lot of benefits to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Going forward to that one, you had Charlotte Flair against Becky Lynch, and this was actually one of the many ones where they're wrestling a lot, but it all works. Like Tuesday, they had a record for longest women's match in WWE history on SmackDown with 23 minutes. So
and then they ended it in a double count out.
Yeah, but if it's setting up for another match, that's perfectly normal. So
talking about SmackDown, right?
Yeah. And
yeah, they ended in a double count out, which I thought was stupid. I thought it was asinine, but once again, we were talking earlier about giving the match too many times.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking Dynamite Kid and Tiger Mask had a feud, but they didn't fucking fight every week back in 82, 83.
Yeah, and that's really the point where for a lot of these lower card feuds, sometimes they didn't even happen. Like, I'm still waiting for the blow-off match between Tito Santana and Rick Martel from 1989.
Didn't they have that at Saturday Night's Main Event?
I don't know if they did or not.
They had a match on Saturday Night's Main Event. I think that was supposed to be the blow-off match.
Yeah, it's weird because for years, every time Tito Santana and Rick Martel were in the Royal Rumble, the one who came in when one was in it would instantly make a beeline for the other guy. So
Strikeforce was an underrated tag team. It just sucks that Martel and Santana hated each other, and then Martel and Zink hated each other too when they were the Can-Am connection.
Yeah, but how many people didn't hate Tom Zink, to be fair?
How many people what?
How many people didn't hate Tom Zink?
Nails didn't hate him. Rick Rude didn't hate him. Kurt Hennig didn't hate him.
Mm-hmm.
All the Minnesota dudes were tight with him.
Yep.
So
everyone went to high school with each other though as well, so that also helps it.
Supposedly, if I recall correctly, I think Z-Man Tom Zink was actually a band student. He wasn't an athlete, but he was a band student.
Mm-hmm. It's likely so.
Mm-hmm. I might be mistaken on that, but I remember Z-Man was something odd, not. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's amazing how we don't have a second or third generation of Robbinsdale studs coming in. We
did have Bam Neely, who was from Robbinsdale in 2008. So there were some
now.
What?
What's he doing now?
No clue, but because
Bam Neely was all right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not sure on this one because he was solid. He just seemed like the weakest bodyguard possible on it. And
who's he bodyguarding again?
Chavo Guerrero.
Right.
Yeah. He was an okay wrestler, but he just had negative charisma. So yeah, but it is kind of weird that we don't see someone from West Texas State or some people from Robbinsdale High say, wow, all these great stars came from there. Why, I can do it too.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, you would think. I know there's Eddie Sharkey that trains wrestlers up there, and one of his prized pupils was Austin Aries.
Yeah, but then you also have the fact
I'm talking about of recent history.
Yeah, on the one hand, it's a good person to hang your hat on in the modern era. On the other hand, it's Austin Aries. So,
who's the Impact champion?
Yeah.
And a pretty good one at that.
We'll leave it at that on these ones. So continue. continuing on from these ones, you had Elias and Kevin Owens facing Bobby Lashley and John Cena, in which may or may not be the final gasp as a face and a heel for Bobby Lashley and Kevin Owens.
Did Cena? Sorry.
What?
Did Cena? How did the match end? Did Cena do that stupid 6 moves of doom again?
Yes, he did.
Oh, the stupid back fist.
Honestly, if it's something for the kids, so that move is kind of stupid, but for some reason I think it'll get over. So
he hasn't done it in the States yet, right?
No.
Oh, he will during that tournament.
Yeah. From the progressive. But yeah, that one ties into Raw because one of the many things that was good on Raw is they found the right time to turn someone heel on this one. And they turned Bobby Lashley heel when people realized, no, we don't want to cheer Lio Rush.
Lio Rush is great as a modern-day Jimmy Hart. I love that touch.
I don't know, because Lio Rush just seems like a closer to a modern-day Slick. And I mean that in a positive way, because Slick was underrated. So
yeah, Slick. Okay, Slick meets Jimmy Hart.
Yeah,
I could definitely get behind that. I just loved how he got under people's skin and had people boo Bitch Boy Bobby.
Yeah, but that's one of the problems where you've got to remember as well. Lio Rush was supposed to be the good guy. That says that he could be a great heel, and honestly, he was a good heel on 205 Live, so he could probably do that anyway.
Absolutely.
But he just doesn't seem like he's got that thing. He's out of position when he's a face, and that'll probably tie into other matches on this one. Heck, it ties into the next match that would come right after this one with Naomi and Asuka versus the Iconics. And you look at this match, you look at how it worked at this one, and you can see if there's a problem with the Iconics right now, they are clearly playing out of position. They'd be fantastic baby faces if you find a way to turn that act face.
It's kind of like Steen and they could be. It's like I'm not Steen. I'm sorry. I'm on indie mode here. It's kind of like Owens and Zayn. How they could be good as a face if you turn them face. And I almost wonder when we talk about Raw. I almost wonder if that was a double turn that happened.
Yeah, and that's really going to be the question mark when Kevin Owens comes back from his injury.
How long is he out?
They're saying 6 to 8 months.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Zayn's coming back.
I'm sure a lot of that depends on whether Lashley's a face or a heel by then.
Yeah. And
because you know that Lashley's going to be on his list.
Yeah. And it also has the X factor that what happens if Sami Zayn comes back around the same time? And
he's coming back in 6 to 8 months too?
Well, he's been out for they said out for a year with his on it, so it's theoretically possible Owens and Zayn come back at the same time.
Maybe even El Generico return. There was when they were doing the whole thing about will they lose their jobs, he brung back his El Generico account on Twitter.
Yeah. I still don't think it's likely simply because El Generico was too indie-ish to succeed. Though I suppose that if El Ligero was in NXT UK, being an indie-ish gimmick doesn't work on that. Because seriously, El Ligero is bona fide shindy-ish gimmick.
What?
There's indie gimmicks. There's gimmicks that would only work on the indies and could never work nationally. And then sometimes you see a gimmick where you think, there is no way that could even make it to the super indie scene on this one. That is just too gimmicky and too small time to even succeed.
So kind of like the mascot on The Simpsons when he went to Capital City?
Yeah. Basically.
Dancing Homer?
Yeah. Only even with Dancing Homer on it, that would be something similar to, like, say, an Emma, where Dancing Emma got incredibly over in the NXT, but no one cared on the main roster.
I wanted to see her bring that gimmick back.
Well, it was also weird on this one because with Emma, they did her exactly right. Like, literally everyone's fantasy booking in 2014 was, I want Emma to attack Fandango and Summer Rae over who the better dancer is. And then when she had a really good mixed tag match with Santino Marella in 2013, everyone said, okay, we want Emma and Santino Marella to be allies for it. They brought her up to feud with Fandango and Summer Rae, and they made her an ally with Santino Marella. And nobody cared.
Typical fickle indie retarded fans right there.
Yeah, and that's really the weird thing, because if the WWE does your fantasy booking,
smart assholes,
be happy, be grateful sometimes. That's really the problem on this one, where the grateful people don't say how grateful they are to WWE. It's just the unhappy people who complain. The internet's not a monolith, and I've gotten a lot of people claiming that that's my problem with it, but sometimes the internet needs to be a monolith. And if you're not a monolith, say you're happy with what WWE is doing. Because otherwise, if you don't monolith and say, no, I'm very happy with this, I'm grateful you're doing this, more of it, then the WWE will think the internet is a monolith, and a monolith of people who are only happy when they have something to complain about. And then they'll say, well, why should we bother giving you what you want? We'll just do what we want. We'll do things to make you miserable, and then you'll have plenty of things to complain about, so you'll be happy.
Have Smarks always acted like spoiled children? Were they like this back 20, 30 years ago? Or is it just a modern thing now?
Honestly, it's more like there was always a little bit of anger with whoever was popular on this. Like Hulk Hogan was hated in the 80s dirt sheet days on it. You had guys like Ultimate Warrior and Junkyard Dog who were despised by the Observer for things like that, to the point that Junkyard Dog still can't get in the Observer Hall of Fame over it. And then you have things, but I think that the rise of EWR has made it so that everybody thinks my booking is the greatest booking on the planet, and if WWE did this booking, then they would be in clover. And so they think, well, I'm a better booker than you. Step aside, give me the book.
I just want to say this. I mean, I don't know if it's happened in history, but you know what I would like to see, and this is going to have to take someone from Powerball, just like how WrestleLicious was made, but here's some thoughts. Get a fucking money mark, just like they WrestleLicious did. Get a bunch of guys from the internet as bookers, have them communicate and stay on the same page, and let's form an indie and let's see what happens.
Honestly,
you have to work on the same page and not argue and get petty all the time. You'd have to have a moderator too on that.
Yeah, and that would honestly be pretty interesting to see. Or even stuff like WWE had said when they wanted the Performance Center, they were going to try and train people to do creative positions on it. Having them say,
really? Yeah,
if they did.
Are they still doing that?
I don't know. They haven't heard anything of it in years, but if they wait a second, we're going to have a fantasy booking contest, and the people we like the fantasy booking of, we're going to take and we're going to train them to become bookers for WWE. That'd be pretty interesting.
Bruh, you got to do that.
Of course. Well, of
I'll
course.
do it too.
Yeah.
I'll do it too. I mean, I haven't booked much, but when I've booked, when I give a fuck and I book, and I don't be goofy when I book, you've read my serious stuff. You know I got some ideas.
And for the record, for people who don't know us on this, Whacked Out Wrestling formed in an EFED years ago on this one. I was one of the head bookers, and Joey was one of the other bookers on this one with characters, and eventually Roche came along later. So we have our chops on those ones, but at the same time, I also know some of the things we do is too insane to function on it. And that
we're ahead of our time, big time.
Yeah, and I think there's a positive thing when you know your booking's insane, because you know, yeah, this makes me happy, but it probably wouldn't work nationally. And that's okay.
Yeah. But I mean, I look at the stuff we wrote back then, and I mean, we were ahead of our time.
Yeah.
We were 5 to 10 years ahead of our time.
Well, yeah. And that's really the point on this one, where there are good shows on this one, where a lot of this right now they're starting to get to the mix of comedy and serious and super indie talent with with a more of a absurd and lighthearted feel to it.
I have some plans. Just stay tuned. That's all I got to say about that, people.
Yep. Detox is coming out with us, so don't worry about that.
Detox.
Yep.
Oh.
So back to those ones on it. And you had the Cena and Lashley versus Elias and Owens match, and that was a good match for what it was on it. And again, the Asuka and Naomi versus Iconics match was a revelation because it's the first time the Iconics worked babyface on it, and you could see it was visibly their best match in the company. It still wasn't one of the best matches on the card and would be closer to the lower end, but there was enough to know that, yes, you turn them face, you may have the next great faces in the company.
Really? They were that good?
They were good enough to be that they would probably be very good as baby faces. And it's not like Billy Kay was a really good baby face on the indie scene as well or anything. That too.
Well, okay, then what would you do? Like have them as faces and let's say do an inner brand match with Bayley and Sasha Banks where they could play face or they could go heel?
Honestly, ties into Raw this week, where you just turned the Bella Twins heel, which is another thing on this one where they turned someone right as people turned on them, and that was perfect timing for it.
And of course, it's going to be probably the Bellas are jealous of Rousey because the Bellas are your typical snobby reality star bitches, and
yeah.
I'm not calling them that in real life. I'm talking about the characters, but
well,
you know,
yeah.
They're basically your typical reality star sluts or bitches, and Ronda Rousey is a legit fighter, so they're like, "Oh, how dare you run into our territory? You don't belong here." So there's some mean girl shit going there.
Mm-hmm.
And meanwhile, my Oogle McDougal just walked behind my back again.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm sitting in my chair, and little Oogle McDougal here has walked right behind my back, rubbing his face on me.
Mm-hmm. But the next match on it was Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, and this was another case where the feud's been good, but it's about time to end it for the most part and go to the next stage of it, because Joe and Styles is the same as Joe and Nakamura. The idea of it is so much better than the matches are for the most part, and the matches are good, no doubt. But people think that if you have these matches that we know are good, we're finally going to get WWE get a 6-star match or something like that. And no, it's not going to happen. They're good matches, but they're just good matches.
I just want to say this. I mean, and it even goes back to when ECW stars came to WWE in the 90s and early zeros. On paper and in theory, you got all the indie darlings of the last decade coming right to the WWE. And it's like 10 years ago, we were all like, yeah, we can't wait to see them. And then when they get there, they just fall flat. I mean, I don't know if it's that we overrated all the guys on the indie scene all these years, or it's just the WWE product doesn't work for everybody, or what it is. But I mean, I know they got Daniel Bryan, aka American Dragon Bryan Danielson, going to face AJ Styles for the title. And I mean, I don't know what it is, but I've said it before. I'm a big Bryan Danielson / Daniel Bryan fan, but I just feel like since coming back and even during his first run, something that just feels flat about him. I don't know what it is. And I can say that for a lot of guys in WWE, like Styles and Joe. I mean, yes, they're good wrestlers. It just something seems off.
Well, with Daniel Bryan, it just seems like for his return, it just was a case where everybody always had that conspiracy theory when Daniel Bryan was retired. Oh, Daniel Bryan was retired because WWE wanted to starve the fans into liking Roman Reigns. And I think that was bullshit. But what I will say is I think that Daniel Bryan's problem was the fact that during the whole time he was retired, Daniel Bryan was healthy enough to do a 5-minute match where he just shows up, does the yes, yes, yes thing, doesn't leave his feet, does the yes lock, and leaves the fans home happy on it. He was probably healthy enough to do that. But that's not a Daniel Bryan match. You expect a certain quality of talent from a Daniel Bryan match. And he probably wasn't healthy enough to do that type of match. He wasn't healthy enough to do a 20-25 minute main event WWE match at a Daniel Bryan match level. And so as a result, you had the fact that he's healthy enough to be a mid-carder for you, but he's not healthy enough to be a man or be the man.
Repeat that. You came in and out.
Okay. What I was saying was Daniel Bryan was probably healthy enough to be a low-carder on the WWE. He was not healthy enough to do a 20-minute main event style WWE match and do it at the level of quality you expect from a Daniel Bryan. And at the same time, WWE knew that if you tried making him a low-carder in 5-minute matches like he was healthy enough to do, the fans would riot about that. So that would make sense to say, okay, we're grounding you until you're healthy enough to wrestle Daniel Bryan matches again.
Fair enough. Though one of my dream matches would be him versus Sabre Jr. right now.
Yeah.
That would just be ill.
Well, that would be good because Sabre Jr. seems a lot like Danielson was before he signed.
Yes, exactly.
Because on the plus, they're amazing technical wrestlers, but they also have a style that they haven't quite learned how to make it interesting to non-smarts yet. And that was very common with Danielson in his jobber matches, where he could put on great technical matches, but it was the same working one limb and just working that and working that works great in an indie scene, but is absolutely the most boring shit to watch on a national scale.
I always got a kick out of watching those matches.
Well, it's one of those cases where that's like watching a 1-0 hockey game on this one, where there is a certain beauty in a 1-0 defensive battle in the NHL.
Okay.
But at the time, you kind of want to watch some scoring. So,
gotcha.
That's perfectly understandable.
And that ties into this show because Daniel Bryan versus The Miz may have been the worst match on the card because it didn't get enough time. It felt a little flat. Ended with a roll-up. Didn't feel like anything was solved or anything like that.
That's a fallback, though, to when he used to call himself Mr. Small Package in ROH.
I hope Brie Bella knew that before she married him.
Hey-oh.
So there was that one, and went through with Ronda Rousey and the Bellas fighting the Riot Squad, and the match was pretty meh, but at the very least, Ronda giving the armbar to 2 members of the Riot Squad at once was pretty cool, so it had that.
How did Liv Morgan come back so fast? I thought she got a brain injury.
She had a small concussion, but got cleared last week, so...
And I guess small concussion means dyeing your hair from blonde to pink.
Yeah, but at least she's better, so the fans...
Where's Alexa Bliss? Did she get injured?
About it.
What?
But at least Liv Morgan's clearly better, so fans, shut the fuck up. Because really, like I said last week on this one, that was more a narrative thing than anything. There was too many people saying, but the Bella Twins don't deserve to be at Evolution because they suck. And then when Brie Bella made a mistake, which was a common mistake any wrestler could make beforehand, they decided, yes, we have proof that our narrative works. And they handed that. Oh. And incidentally, that probably works for this because the fans turned enough on the Bellas that they could turn on Monday, and it was the right time. No different than hearing that Enzo Amore was a douche to strippers and was starting to be hated by the locker room was enough to make it so that the 205 Live had the chance to turn Enzo Amore. And
why am I Enzo Amore acting like Thad Castle in Blue Mountain State?
Honestly, I don't think Thad Castle's favorite pickup line for a woman is, "You look like you could use another drink." So,
Well, Thad Castle's into making mojitos.
Mm-hmm.
So, who knows?
And then you had the best match on the night, which was Buddy Murphy versus Cedric Alexander. And it wasn't just enough for an Australian match to leave the home crowd happy. Buddy Murphy made himself famous on last week. There's no better way to say it. That match was amazing.
I'll have to check it out then.
Yeah, it got 4 1/4 from Meltzer, but we don't trust Meltzer's ratings around here. But it was a very, very good match. Buddy Murphy had been the best kept secret in WWE for a couple years now. The secret is out after his run on 205 Live.
Who did Buddy Murphy wrestle as on the indie scene?
He didn't wrestle much on the indie scene. He worked as Matt Silva in Australian indies, though.
What, was he like a generic wannabe MMA fighter then?
Not sure what he was on it because I don't really follow Australian independent wrestling, but he was apparently pretty good on this one. So
good enough to wind up in NXT.
Yeah, and he certainly made the most of his time in the spotlight. So can't really fault him for that.
Sort of on the subject, where's Alexa Bliss?
Apparently there were rumors that she had had numbness in her arm, which, given the Gordon situation, is something you do not want to mess with. But showed up on this one for Alexa and Nikki versus Lita and Trish at Evolution. So
right.
And then you had the main event, which was supposed to be the last time ever, and it ended up as Lemon Party, the match.
Lemon Party. You knew that was going to happen. Now, come on.
Well, of course it was, but it's the best way to describe that match was Lemon Party. It's 4 old men having a circle jerk that no one needs to see.
Okay, let me stop you right there because, I mean, we'll talk about Raw in a minute, but I will say this right now. I was impressed with how Raw, they sold the aftermath of it, and a lot of the old hats about, I remember Raven saying in a shoot interview, he would say, you know, you talk people into the seats, and honestly, with how they sell it, I'm interested to see where this goes. And I see a lot of the older guys, they know how to sell the next chapter, and you see a lot of younger guys, they don't know how to do that as well. It's a lost art. So, I mean, yeah, you can see. So, yeah, I kind of give a fuck about seeing where 4 50-year-old motherfuckers go from here.
Yeah, but that was also the problem where right now part of it is like that. But at the other hand, when you know that the way that the Crown Jewel match is going to be all depends on can Shawn Michaels, who's been retired for 8 years at this point, come back with the same selling that he had in his second run as well, and that's what this match is sold on, then you have a problem there because we saw Triple H and Undertaker. Psychology is the last thing to go, which is why this works. They can talk you into the building. They have the psychology, but their bodies just can't do it anymore. That was the weakness with Undertaker and Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, where it felt so perfect on that one. Roman Reigns,
Undertaker. Michael shave his head.
No clue. But Undertaker, Roman Reigns felt perfect because it was like watching your beloved pet for years, and they're at the end of their lifespan. They're shitting all over the house. They have trouble getting out of their bed at night, and it's like those last few weeks where you say, I'm really going to miss them when I do this. But then it's also weighed with the same point of, if I truly loved my pet for all this time, I have to put them out of their misery and be strong enough to do this one thing for them, to show them I care. And that was what Undertaker Roman Reigns was like. Because it was like him saying with how bad the match was, it's time. I've given you one more match for 6 and 7 years now, but it's over. I just don't have one more match left in me. Please let me go. Let me rest in peace. And that made the Roman versus Undertaker match so beautiful. And then the next year he fights John Cena, and it's like, Nope, sorry, I have matches left in me. Sorry about that.
I was gonna say what you described reminded me more of Shawn Michaels versus Ric Flair.
Well, yeah, but Ric Flair versus Shawn Michaels was more like Flair was proving he still had something left in the tank. He proved he could go left in the tank, but he wasn't sure if he had enough to be the man anymore. And so that was the story there. And with Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker, it was, yeah, I'll do anything to beat you. I'm going to do whatever it takes, and I'll be defiant to the end. And even if I'm going to lose, I'm dying on my feet. So,
right.
So yeah, it's the problem with these matches where both Triple H and Undertaker have great psychology, and psychology is the last thing to go. I mean, shit. Kevin Sullivan is still getting strikes in MLW now, and he's basically running on just psychology.
Sullivan's wrestling for MLW?
Yeah, he's appearing in MLW for matches.
Wow.
What is he doing there?
Mostly just random match spots. He's doing an angle with Brian Pillman Jr., I believe, so.
Are they taping in Orlando still?
I think they are.
Holy shit, I gotta go.
Yep.
I gotta go there.
Yeah.
So what is Sullivan's doing, like an Army of Darkness sequel or something?
I don't think it's an Army of Darkness sequel. He's just trying to say to Brian Pillman, listen to me and I'll show you to make the lessons your father didn't do on these things, which is pretty straightforward and goes against Teddy Hart doing these things. And
so Pillman Jr. is feuding with Teddy Hart?
Yeah.
Battle of the Loose Cannon, wannabe Loose Cannon versus the real Loose Cannon's son. How does Pillman Jr. look? Does he have the mullet like his father did?
He looks pretty decent for a guy his training level. So
no, I'm talking about his look. Does he have the same funky mullet that Pillman did?
I don't think he has the total mullet. No.
Okay.
Yeah, but he also is willing to do some weird stuff. Like he had a multiple sleeper spot a couple weeks ago, and people said, "No, that's not enough," and you're doing your father wrong with stupid spots like that. Which was also the only time that someone ever was able to use successfully, "My father wrestled a pencil, your argument is invalid."
I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting considering how Pillman Sr. hated Kevin Sullivan.
Yeah.
Hey, he respected him, Booker man.
So I'm wondering if it's going to lead to Sullivan turning on Pillman Jr.
More than likely, because you can't have Sullivan as a babyface for too long. It's just not right.
The funny thing is, Sullivan, when he was really young, before he became, the Army of Darkness, he was a babyface.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's out of position versus in position stuff.
Right.
Like we saw on this one, and Kevin Sullivan's just out of position as a babyface. He's just a natural heel.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Didn't Benoit's son actually have a match not like a year or so back?
Ben Wallace's son?
Chris Benoit. Benoit's kid.
I think Benoit's trying to train for these things, and he's apparently not bad on this one, but there is the problem of if he'd be allowed to wrestle as Benoit's son. That's always the problem.
Put him under a mask?
It could work, but if you're in those ones, if you're Benoit's son, people know. So
Pegasus Kid 3, since 2 was Finn Balor / Prince Devitt?
Possibly.
I mean, I was going to say, Pillman Jr. and Benoit's kid could be an interesting tag team.
Yeah. Or worst comes to worst, you just put the guy in Japan or Mexico. I mean,
Cody Hall's right there right now.
Yeah. Who?
Does Dean Malenko have a son wrestling?
I don't think so.
Because I'm almost wondering.
Malenko had daughters, so.
Malenko had daughters?
I'm pretty sure. I'm not certain though.
Okay.
But yeah, even if Benoit can't go in America, just send him to Japan or Mexico. I mean, shit, they're allowing Michael Elgin to keep his career, so they'll let anybody have one.
Yeah, the guy can pee on women and wrestle in Japan because Japan's like that. They have fucking Dump Matsumoto, who legendary female wrestler, is now a dominatrix there. So, what the hell, right, guys?
Yeah. And remember, if you think that Brian Pillman works on these things, Dave Meltzer is the thought of these things. Remember, Dave Meltzer doxed an abuse shelter because he was mad that a woman accused one of the New Japan darlings of being unfair when she was raped by one of his trainees.
How old is Dave Meltzer anyway?
In his 50s.
So a 50-something-year-old guy decided to take the liberties to do some doxing on
an abuse shelter.
An abuse shelter. A 50-something-year-old guy.
Yes.
What the fuck?
Because he's so in love with New Japan that he'd do that. That's really the problem. When you're at that level, fuck you, buddy. Just fuck you.
Preach, Tommy, preach.
But that really helps it, because at least American fans have caught on that one. And if X-Pac Heat was go away, just go away, it was surpassed this year on Naito's Tour of America by Elgin Heat, which was, we know what you did. You're not welcome here anymore.
Talking about he wasn't welcome in Canada or America?
In America.
What promotion booed him out saying we don't want you here?
I believe it was AAW who did it, so.
Oh. Cult status promotion from the Midwest.
It was that, here's an article about the few lines, things got awkward at the AAW show in Chicago on Saturday night when Michael Elgin was brought in for an appearance. Michael Elgin was not advertised to be there, and it did not go over well with fans that did not want to see him because of the way Elgin has handled the sexual assault claims against Sean Orleans.
Oh, God, shouldn't he just run with it and been like a gigantic heel? What the hell?
Again, the difference is there's some things that you don't run with on this.
I remember a long time ago reading about Colt Cabana trying to be a heel, and he was saying really lewd, vulgar stuff to people, and threatening to rape a woman or something.
Yeah, but again,
good lord.
For instance, stuff like Edge using the love triangle between him, Matt Hardy, and Lita to become a white-hot heel, and someone there are real, serious shit being thrown at me. Better use this to be a heel.
Well, they say that the best storylines come from a little bit of reality, and I'll see you that and raise you. What about when Chris Benoit was feuding with Kevin Sullivan over woman?
Well, at least that was just Kevin Sullivan being an idiot more than anything on that one, where Sullivan just said, oh yeah, Kevin's starting to have a feud with me and you over woman on this one. And then Sullivan said, hey, let's work the boys. I want you two to go out on dates with each other.
That's funny.
And they just happened to hit it off, and then that's why she left him for him.
That's kind of funny if you think about it.
Yeah, but it was
Kevin Sullivan booked his own divorce.
Yeah, but it's between that and the Brian Pillman situation. You'd think that Kevin Sullivan would learn maybe it's a bad idea to work the boys.
There was someone else that tried to do it. I'm trying to think. Wasn't there a big storyline where a booker was trying to... I remember now. Wasn't it Pillman actually... Pillman at the time was working WCW and WWE when he was in ECW. And didn't he work a way to get fired from Bischoff? And he said, I'll come back. But then he's like, nah, fuck you. I'm going to WWF.
Yeah, basically, he did that where he told Bischoff that, oh yeah, I want to leave. I was thinking it'd be better if you work a firing for me in WCW. I'll come back later. And so Bischoff worked it, and he said, no, wait, make it a real firing on the real paperwork and everything like that, and make it all on the up and up. And he said, sure, I'm doing that. And thanks, I'm going to WWE.
Now, okay, I vaguely remember there was a Monday Nitro after I Respect You, Booker Man. There was a Monday Nitro where Pillman came out in these weird like pants. There were white pants with, you know, rainbow splotches all over the place. And they were saying the loose cannon is back.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys remember that Nitro where at the end he came out of the crowd and jumped Hogan?
I don't think that was on Nitro.
It was on Nitro. I remember that. This was after I Respect You, Booker Man. Pillman came back and attacked Hogan or attacked somebody, and Heenan was like, "The loose cannon's back."
Yeah, I'm not sure about that one. I know
I wasn't even watching it at the time, so.
I watched the 95 to 97 Nitros on the network, and I didn't see anything like that. So
it did happen. Trust me. I don't know. It was after I Respect You, Booker Man. It was a few weeks after I Respect You, Booker Man. He did come back. I'm just wondering if this was before he went to ECW or after he went to ECW, or between the time.
No clue on it. But in defense on the firing angle, to his record, apparently Bischoff has always said since the death of Pillman that if Pillman had lived, he was going to double cross WWF and jump back to WCW and get a huge push there. So take that for what it is as well.
Bullshit. I'll take it as bullshit. Yeah. Because if Pillman would have lived, he would have had like the feud of the age with Austin.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, you had the perfect heat there. Like, they were former partners in WCW. There was the whole thing with Austin messing up his ankle or whatever.
Right.
Another thing about Crown Jewel. Apparently, they moved it to a smaller venue.
Why?
I'm not sure. Like, the article I'm reading says it's unclear why the decision was made to move the show to the smaller venue, but this was likely a decision made by the government of Saudi Arabia.
Do they actually have a hard time selling tickets?
I don't honestly know, but here's an interesting thing. The original venue, King Fahd International Stadium, had over 67,000 seats, and the new one, King Saud University Stadium, apparently has a capacity of 25,000 seats. So,
yeah. And that'll be interesting.
That's a bit of a drop.
For Rich Sheiks on this one, because apparently they had problems where they weren't allowing families and anything except the cheap seats. So that's going to be a bigger question mark there.
Oh yeah.
So it could be there for things like Strowman versus Reigns versus Lesnar, the DX versus the Brothers of Destruction, the greatest King of the Ring, and of course, two people in a country lynch a famous foreign journalist match. I'm like Knox sometimes. I know no words good.
It's all right.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, moving on to Raw.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and one of the things on this one is at least most of the stuff is pretty much straightforward for these ones, where you had Shawn Michaels coming out of retirement for this match, and that's just as depressing as the end of an era on this one. You had Shawn Michaels, who seemed like he had finally retired. He was going to be the guy who they couldn't get to come out of retirement, and he comes out of retirement for Crown Jewel. That's just sad. Not for a big match with Daniel Bryan or AJ Styles, to be at a sold show for propaganda purposes.
Now, hold on. I mean, stay tuned. I mean, for all we know, yeah, he'll do that. But hey, for all we know, WrestleMania is coming. And he could be doing a match with Danielson at WrestleMania. Teacher versus student. That would be fun.
Yep. It's viable.
And where's WrestleMania coming from next year?
New York, New Jersey.
Oh, they'll definitely do that. They would do that.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's still the one plus is that apparently Shawn wanted to retire because his kids, he wanted to spend time with them before they were too old to hate him. And now if it's 8 years later, his kids are probably teenagers or heading out of this house. So now it could be that he's...
I wonder if his kids want to be wrestlers.
If they did, I'm pretty sure that Triple H would already sign him.
Yeah.
Yeah. You had John Cena announce the World Cup, and then Kurt Angle announced for it. So
that was a funny moment with Kurt Angle's the Conquistador. I fell down laughing at that.
Yeah, and it was, and that's one of the pluses for it, where there's nothing wrong with some good old fashioned cheap humor, and that was the Global Battle Royal. So
Kurt Angle has always been humorous. I mean, just how he was acting, it just made me laugh, and I forgot how funny Kurt Angle was.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the pluses where it ties back to the problems with last year and the Jason Jordan Sun angle on it, where Jason Jordan versus Kurt Angle was a serious moment, and you could see it like that for what we got. But if they did Chad Gable and Kurt Angle, that would have been hilarious. That you would have had things of Kurt Angle taking Chad Gable to baseball games, taking him fishing, and they would have been very funny moments for it. And that would have saved the whole thing.
Jason Jordan supposedly is trying to work behind the scenes now, right?
Yeah, because apparently he might have had a career-ending injury.
Ah, boy.
Yeah.
Well, Paige had a career-ending injury and became the authority figure of SmackDown. And I mean, so what I'm almost thinking is, couldn't you see Corbin get fired finally, and Angle comes back, then Jason Jordan becomes his lieutenant?
Again, keep in mind that there's a little bit of a difference, because Paige always had a lot of charisma on it, and Jason Jordan, the most charisma he had was with American Alpha, and that was when he was playing the straight man to Chad Gable. So he's not the type of guy you'd expect would be really good as a non-wrestling GM.
But he could, just have continuity, have it continue, like how he was using Angle to get in matches or get involved with Shield. Have it be used as continuity, where he's trying to be the GM, and he's awkward at it. Not like Corbin, mind you, but I mean he's awkward at it in the sense of he's impulsive, and Angle's got to reel him in. Have it be a continuity of that. Shit, you know what you could do it like? Remember in Saved by the Bell when Screech came back to Bayside and became Principal Belding's assistant? Do it like that.
Yeah. Honestly, if you're doing those things, though, it's just a case where you'd have more drama as Jason Jordan retires and becomes a GM, and Kurt Angle's angry at him. I mean, why would he even get mad at him? Angle's pulled his quad all the time. He pulled it this morning.
Yeah, I mean, I was one of the few that actually did not want Jordan to ever turn on Angle. I just thought they played off well with each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and it was interesting on those ones where it could happen, but at the same time, I just don't think that Jason Jordan has what it takes to be a good non-wrestling controller. But since he was very good in the ring, he could probably be a pretty good road agent. So,
oh, absolutely. I mean, how many road agents does WWE have?
They have plenty of them, and the more the merrier, because the more producers who can work on the shows, the better.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. The road agents are in charge of the matches, right?
Yeah, they're the ones who work out the matches. So,
I would love to be a road agent.
Yeah.
What I mean?
At the same time, most of the road agents are people who are the best of the best in the ring. So, but
right, absolutely. But Tommy, you were going back to a subject. You were saying WWE's trying to hire creative people or train creative people.
Allegedly, they were when the Performance Center started, but I haven't heard anything about that in 5 years. So
maybe call them on the phone, or email them.
Yeah. If they did, then we'd know on that they were starting it. But
if I remember correctly, like a few years back, like supposedly Stephanie McMahon kind of looks down on people that are marks.
Yeah,
marks, right?
Well, that's one of the question marks on it, because
Trips is like the ultimate fan.
Yeah. Well, it's also the case where you have to know whether somebody's going to think of something because you mark for them and because it's the right thing to do.
Right.
And that's really the weakness for when a wrestler who's active is on the booking team, because they'll never know if it's, well, I trust myself, I should be the one in this main event feud.
For as much bullshit as Disco Inferno got, he was on the booking team for years in WCW and always made himself a joke. He didn't try to use his power.
Yeah, it was the same thing with Aaron Stevens in OVW, where he was on the booking team and they said, you can make yourself the OVW World Champion. We have no problem. He said, nah, here's Beth Phoenix, here's Shelly Martinez. I'm going to book myself to have regular threesomes with them. And it led to a pretty good character.
And it's amazing that character never really showed up in WWE.
How the hell are you going to make that character show up in WWE, though?
You could have, but I mean, when we got him, he was basically in a throwaway tag team with Casey James and managed by Michelle McCool for like 5 minutes, and basically they got beat by London and Kendrick.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand how that never came to fruition in WWE. That was a missed opportunity.
I would say Val Venus, what we were talking about earlier, where you had Edge had worked as a wrestling porn star on the indie scene before he went through it, and he knew, I'm not being the porn star in WWE, because he knew damn well, after you've fucked every woman in the company, where do you go from there?
I thought he was your typical California surfer dude, a Sexton Hardcastle.
Apparently, he said he was also a porn star in his book. So,
yeah, he was saying he's from Mount Vernon or Mount Valley, California, or some shit like that. Yeah. And then I remember back then there was a huge rumor that Venus and Edge, because they did interact with each other briefly, there was a rumor that they were going to team up and call themselves Sex and Violence.
Yeah.
And come to think of it, if they would have did that, they would have been the reverse their indie characters. Because wasn't Val Venus on the indie scene known as Steel, who was like a violent motherfucker?
Yeah.
So they were. So they would have been the revert. They would have like switched gimmicks in WWE, where back then Edge was basically, a tormented soul, violent guy, and Val Venus was Val Venus.
Yeah. Yeah, so it is one of those cases where it's just the same thing on it, where if your gimmick is a playboy who has sex with all the women in the company, what do you do once you've already had sex with all the women in the company? You're pretty much straightforward and normal.
Turn bisexual and go try to fuck all the men?
Honestly, 2018, it might actually work.
Oh, no.
Well, I know that,
that's about as bad as, when fucking Tony Schiavone joked about making David Arquette the champion. Russo was like, that's a good idea.
Well, you've got to figure.
That's a good idea.
Ring of Honor's hottest face for a long time was Dalton Castle. One of the hottest acts in New Japan is the Golden Lovers. If there's a time where you could do something like that, it's about now, so.
I still don't see the Golden Lovers as gay.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen the Golden Lovers, so.
Well, they may not be gay. They usually go with it, but both guys are perfectly willing to accept it if you read them as gay. So
aren't they bisexual in real life?
They've never mentioned it.
Not that it matters, but that was a rumor.
Omega has pretty much hinted he probably is, but he's never officially said, no, I am. So
doesn't matter. He's a badass anyway.
Yep. And it was the same thing on this one, where he did have his time as a slapping skill, so
right. Mm-hmm. I think I missed a joke.
No, he was in some video where a bunch of guys are slapping each other.
Yeah.
Then him and Kota Ibushi fought a blow-up doll, and then Omega fought a 9-year-old once.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty nifty that it's pretty nifty that a guy like Kenny Omega has become the star and the champion and the number one New Japan and the number one promotion in Japan, and he's stayed true to who he is and being a big anime fanboy. I mean, I just think there's something really beautiful about that.
Yeah, and that ties into the fact that apparently the morale's down in New Japan, and there's a chance that people might be more willing to jump ship now. So that could be interesting if it goes through. But
what's happening? The morale's down in New Japan?
The morale in New Japan is allegedly down from things today, and some people who rejected WWE offers are more interested in saying, well, we might be interested now. So
who's interested in going? Tanahashi?
No one knows who is, but the most.
I got a prediction for the January 4th show. I'm predicting Tanahashi wins the belt off Omega. Shinsuke Nakamura makes a surprise return and challenges him for the belt.
It wouldn't
maybe, just maybe, Omega goes to WWE.
It wouldn't be unlikely because there is the rumor that on January 5th, Nakamura and Gallows and Anderson's contracts are expire. So,
well, I mean, would it be January 5th? Well, I mean, considering times and everything, I mean, Japan runs ahead of us by what, 19 hours?
Yeah, but that would mean that we saw from the Friday show on at 5 a.m. on Super Showdown. That would mean that in all likeliness that they wouldn't have it until after the viewpoint, after it happens. So
okay, then have Nakamura show up at the press conference.
Yeah, it could be viable, but I'm not. It's still a question mark of whether or not they'll go because.
But who particularly is unhappy in New Japan? Is it more the Gaijin or some of the?
They've never mentioned who. They didn't mention it. Just that morale is down, and of the people who've had offers on it and who may have changed their minds on it, the only person that it's been confirmed had a WWE offer on the table was Hangman Page. So
they probably want to be as quiet as they can about it, so that because I mean if anyone goes public with their discontent, that'll probably stir the pot even more, which would probably aggravate the effects on morale.
Or maybe they're working us all to set up Cody, the Bucks, Omega, potentially Ibushi, and a lot of the Bullet Club guys doing an invasion of WWE, and they're going to try to recreate the magic of the NWO. Just throwing this out there.
It's possible, but honestly, the fact that the club already happened with Styles, Gallows, and Anderson and didn't work was a failure. Of course, that's also the fact that they only were together for about 2 months, and Styles was great as AJ Styles. Carl Anderson's solid, but upon closer inspection, they realized that Luke Gallows was Luke Gallows.
It's funny how Vince didn't realize that he was Festus once upon a time, and then on top of that, when does Finn Balor's contract run out?
I don't know when Finn Balor's contract runs out, but all signs say that he seems pretty happy there, and if there's no rumors of when it happens. The only thing we know is that the 1-5 date for those four, so...
Well, I was going to say, the Tongans are feuding with the Elite, and they were talking about how Balor and Styles... In kayfabe, Balor and Styles told them to take out Omega, so maybe Gallows and Anderson come back to give them a boost.
Yeah, it'd be viable, but I think that the window for Luke Gallows as a star has kind of failed because Luke Gallows basically...
He got over Japan. What does it matter?
Luke Gallows got over in Japan and TNA because Luke Gallows is very close friends with CM Punk, and the IWC are so gay for CM Punk that they would get over some worthless slug just because they think it'd make CM Punk like them.
Wow, you're shitting on Gallows a lot tonight.
Yeah. Well, I've been steadfast that the worst pro wrestler I have ever seen live, and I include small-time shindies in this list, was the fake Kane at a 2006 house show.
Gallows, though, was saying he felt uncomfortable with that gimmick all along. You can't really fault him for this or that.
Yeah, I've just never been impressed by the guy, though, so...
Fair enough. To each their own. I mean, I didn't think he was the drizzling shits. I think he's all right, but, you know, I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah. But back to Raw this week, you have... most of the Raw was about them making the right heel turns at the right time with Bobby Lashley and Lio Rush and the Bella Twins. Other than that, you had pretty much straightforward stuff. Lashley and Owens coming through, and then interrupting Finn Balor and Bayley's interview before they fought Jinder Mahal and Alicia Fox.
Alicia Fox been for the WWE for what, 10 years?
Yeah. And that was just a pretty straightforward match for Mixed Match Challenge, so that was what it was as well.
Bathroom break match.
pretty much. Which was a shame because in 2 years you take the hottest at prospects in NXT and Balor and Bayley, and they're a bathroom break now.
Yeah, I mean that's part of the problem though with WWE sometimes. Like, look at Bobby Roode. He was big news in NXT, and he was a big deal in TNA with Beer Money and James Storm. Now what is he? A goddamn bathroom break as well.
Yeah, but that's also the problem where at least with Bobby Roode, there's a good reason for that. Again, he's playing out of position. We've seen enough Bobby Roode to know he's an incredibly dynamic heel who's very comparable to a younger Triple H and would be just what WWE needs right now, but he's just a boring babyface. He's bland. He's meh.
Hey, Tommy, you think Leo Rush is going to manage a slew of managers, not just Bitch Boy Bobby?
I don't know, because Leo Rush doesn't seem like is weird because he's good enough to be a wrestler himself, but...
He is a wrestler himself.
Yeah, normal.
Didn't Topanga from Boy Meets World actually crush on him?
I don't know.
I did hear that, Topanga would... Danielle Fischel's her real name. I did hear that she went to... the indie shows that he was on.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's viable on these ones, but
Corey Matthews wouldn't be happy, but who gives a fuck?
Yeah. It's still, well, it's Corey Matthews' own fault for being this brother of Marilyn Manson, so.
He's not that's Fred Savage, and the one that they think was Marilyn Manson was Paul Pfeiffer, aka Josh Staffiano or something like that. And it's been proven that he wasn't Marilyn Manson. The guy, Marilyn Manson, his real name's Brian Warner. So,
oh, come on. Next thing you know, you're going to tell me that Jamie from Small Wonder didn't grow up to be Billy Corgan from Smashing Pumpkins.
He didn't. Jamie, aka Jerry Superin, actually, I seen a video of him. He actually was homeless for a while, living under a bridge. I shit you not.
Strange. I thought all that money he'd get from Dr. Dre, from the movie with Dr. Dre, Ice Cube, and Eazy-E would have helped him.
What?
What? You said that Jamie from Small Wonder grew up to be the guy from NWA, right?
Oh, okay. Stop it. You silly man. You silly men. Oh, but then again, I'm the silliest one of y'all, so.
Yeah. But then you had continuing stuff of Nia Jax versus Ember Moon because reason.
Was there a turn there? I missed that match.
No, there was not. Not yet.
Who won?
But
who won?
Shield versus the Dogs of War.
No, who won that match? Nia Jax.
Ember Moon by count out.
Yeah.
Why? What happened? Did Nia Jax just take a powder break and say, fuck this?
Nope, she just had a count out, so.
Oh. Nia Jax, a.k.a. Wendy Williams, is 150 more pounds.
Mm-hmm. And that works on those ones, but it was those problems because it was what it was. Because, again, with Nia Jax, she's okay in the ring and good as a spokesperson for him. I just don't get Ember Moon, though. Maybe it's the fact that she's not that great at her character. Maybe it's the fact that I still don't really like how she was booked in NXT, but...
Wasn't she big news in NXT, so this is just another case of WWE shit in the bed, bringing them up?
Well, it was more the fact that she didn't get past it where... The best way to put it was she was the Black Page. On paper, they seemed gothic and dark and just cool. But then
I don't remember seeing any porn on Ember Moon.
Good night, everybody. But at the same time, when it happens, you just realize they were just nope. A diva who dresses like a goth chick. So, and so that's basically what Raw was for this week. And then you go to SmackDown.
Wait a minute, what happened with Authors of Pain and
Authors of Pain didn't show up on this.
They did.
Oh, probably just washed. So
no, I flipped black on the TV and they showed Authors of Pain beating the shit out of Chad Gable, one of the members of Ascension.
Probably.
Yeah, that apparently happened.
Yeah, Yeah, I didn't see it on the one I was using, so that was probably it.
And then
Dongo coming back, so Breeze isn't lost in the shuffle.
He's still injured and was about a few months ago, so maybe 3-6 months.
Oh boy, they're gonna get lost in the shuffle, and Fashion Police might get released.
Yeah, honestly, at the very least, they like it so much that Tyler Breeze is one of the guys they're sending to NXT house shows to work there, so they at least respect Breeze as a talent enough to do that. So
they get, for fuck's sake, he had a match with Jushin Thunder Liger. He's good.
Yeah. Plus, there's also the case of if they send him to 205 Live, like they did this week, and officially put Mike and Maria Kanellis on the 205 roster. So there's that possibility as well.
Did?
Yeah.
So Mike Kanellis lost some weight.
Yeah. Or at least they said that he lost some weight, which is also the thing, because there's no way that Cedric Alexander is 205 pounds right now. I'd be shocked if
they said he dropped 20 pounds just to get on 205 Live.
Yeah. Well, he was that's the key word. They dropped it to get on it, but do we know if they're still 205?
Good point.
Yeah. So yeah, but yeah, Mike and Maria Kanellis added to the 205 Live roster, and I can dig it. 205 Live has been a miracle worker now, so if they can get something out of Mike Kanellis, that'd be a great thing for him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So then you have the SmackDown this week, and we talked about Becky versus Charlotte in the Women's Championship match. And then qualifiers in this World Cup, Jeff Hardy and Samoa Joe and Big Show and Randy Orton. So
yeah, Orton beat a returning Big Show in a blah match, and then I think I missed the ending to Jeff Hardy and Samoa Joe, but they were playing it up like Joe got injured or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There was a funny Miz TV segment with Styles and Danielson.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very funny segment where they were acting like sportsmen and Miz was trying to egg them on, and then it backfired on them.
Yeah.
Because, like, Styles was like, how good did it feel punching him in the face? Punching a 3-minute man in the face.
Mm-hmm.
Or 2-minute man in the face. Which led to Shelton Benjamin fighting AJ with the Miz and Danielson on commentary with each other, which was funny. I missed SmackDown last week. Did Benjamin actually beat Danielson clean last week?
I don't believe so, no.
Oh, okay.
Did he, John?
I don't remember either.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But then you have other things on it where Rusev and Lana foil Aiden English's screening of One Night in Milwaukee and prove he was lying, which is...
You know what that angle reminded me of? Like, we were talking about, is there a return to Attitude Era? And at first it looked like that, but then how they just, came back next week, made it PG.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, but that's also the point where you'd have to have things like that being PG, because really it's just one of the cases where if you're going to make that angle PG-13, just go with what we all kind of think is the subtext there. I mean, you've got the effeminate drama kid and his friendship with a big Russian bear of a man, keyword bear here, it failed with Rusev having his wife Lana spend time and ruining their friendship. If you're going to make it PG-14, then just go with what we all know. We've all kind of, it's always been a shock when Aiden English was married to Eddie Guerrero's daughter. Not because Eddie Guerrero's daughter would marry a man like Aiden English, but wait, Aiden English is straight?
Well, I mean, they were, Corey Graves was talking about how Aiden English was acting like Fatal Attraction.
Yeah.
So, kind of is there, so...
Yeah, and then you had pretty much, it was building up for next week in SmackDown 2000, and we know that Rey Mysterio is returning, so they have that going for him, which is
fighting.
Yep, they just said
Rey fighting
Nakamura.
Rey
probably going to be good. It was always a question mark why Mysterio would go back when by the end he could not physically wrestle anymore for him without getting injured. But
and yet he was ageless in New Japan and Lucha Underground.
Yeah, but that's also with a much lower schedule. Remember,
right? I was blown away though with Mysterio in those promotions because it looked like he de-aged by about 15 years.
Yeah, and that's really the point because he was on a lower schedule, so he could work out more, he could train more.
Maybe he'll just come in and put Nakamura over, and Nakamura will be in the tournament.
Yeah. Yeah, considering that 4 of the people are from the U.S., and you've got to assume there'd be more people for it. Like, it's honestly shocking that we don't have word that they're putting one of the Saudi trainees inside the match.
Is Ray Ray from California or Mexico?
Ray's from San Diego.
Okay, so he wasn't born in Mexico.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to have Nakamura win this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Even if it's got to be through bullshittery, but have him win.
Yeah, it's weird because there's enough people you could have a 20 or 30 man tournament or stuff.
Right.
With just people from different countries.
Hell, WWE UK could have done something, for that tournament.
Mm-hmm. Not even just. Let me pull up the possibilities here on this.
Where's Roderick Strong? Just quickly, where's Roderick Strong these days?
He's still in NXT in the Undisputed Era.
I thought he was in 205.
He works some 205 matches, but he's still primarily in NXT in the Undisputed Era.
Is he a jobber in 205?
I think he was a jobber in 205, so.
Oh, that's stupid.
But they push him in NXT, so it's equal.
Is he still doing the Master of the Backbreakers?
I don't believe so. I think he's just the preppy frat boy douchebag he was on it with Undisputed. So
he does that gimmick so well.
Yeah. But yeah, it's back to the things for this one. Just getting us a possibility on this one, and look at the where is it? Just using the options here. Think of all these people you could use for it just as examples. U.S., you have the people in there. Japan for Nakamura. Mexico for Andrade Cien Almas. Bulgaria for Rusev. Ireland for Finn Balor. Australia with Buddy Murphy. Netherlands for Aleister Black.
Famous for England.
People from Saudi Arabia in the trainees, but I'd say Manny Favorino would work because Mansoor is trained as a wrestler and his promo really got over.
What about that Chinese guy, Bing Wong or whatever the fuck his name
is? They have him. Jinder Mahal for India. Drew McIntyre for Scotland. Tyler Bate for England. Lindsay Dorado for Puerto Rico.
Tyler Breeze for Canada.
For Germany. No Way Jose for the Dominican Republic. Kofi Kingston for Ghana. Switzerland for Cesaro. Bobby Roode for Canada. And they showed Baba Tunde from Poland at the last Saudi show, so you can put him in. There's a lot of options there.
One question going back to Raw in that Battle Royale that Corbin had, the bullshit Battle Royale. They were cheering like crazy for one guy in like a red and white mask. Who was that?
If it was the masked guy, I think it was Egotistico Fantastico.
That explains it.
Yeah.
They were really popping for him. I was like, I know this guy's familiar. I just couldn't put my finger on who it was. So who were the other guys?
I actually am up. Let me get this one so I can see on it.
Yeah, give me the list. I'm intrigued.
Okay, then. Let me see on this one. I almost have it.
Okay.
Yeah, I know I saw the list this week, so.
Right.
Come on, come on, come on, come on.
Is it freezing up on you again?
Well, I'm just trying to put every possible thing in for this one, so, and it's just not coming up for it. So, yeah, I know there was a full list. So,
Would it be on Reddit Squared Circle?
that's where I'm looking right now.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the problems on this one, so
You want me to look too?
I've almost got it, so
Oh, okay.
almost. Damn it, didn't show it. What the
Oh, I'm Dr. Phil.
Yeah.
No, I was just thinking
This
about
should be the time on we should
I was just thinking
handle
about
these
the one
ones when
episode
we're
of Dr.
looking for
Phil
time.
where this prisoner was calling him and talking shit. And he was like, "Oh, I'm Dr. Phil. It's time to get real." And then he hung up on him.
Yep, this is the time when we should save things for the times on WoW when we dance.
All right.
Okay, then let's see now. Hopefully cagematch.net has it. Okay. Okay, I'm at cagematch. Okay, then. Here's the people on it. We have the Conquistador, which was Kurt Angle.
Of course.
Getting the full list in full of each person. You have Dr. Winston von Voorhees was Pat Monix from the indie scene in the area. El Hombre Sin Nombre was Egotistico Fantastico, Robert Anthony.
PWG, right?
Yeah. Franz the Belgian Waffler was Chris Thomas.
No name, dude.
Gregor Falcon was Flash Flanagan, a former developmental guy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Gregor
Falcon.
Interesting. I thought that guy retired a long time ago.
Stanislaw the Squeezer was a guy named CJ Esparza. I've seen some of his work, and he's pretty good. The Chilean sea bass was Roy Gordon.
That name sounds familiar.
Yep. The Sultan of Shawarma was the former Impact guy, Idris Abraham.
What did he do? Was he in?
He was a jobber in some X Division matches for him. So
Did he do a tournament for them?
I think he did. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I remember him now.
Mm-hmm. The guy with the afro. So
I remember. Yeah.
And Thunder Montgomery was Aaron Orion.
Sounds familiar too.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of familiar people in the Midwest indie scene, so it kind of worked there.
So Flash Flanagan's still wrestling?
Yeah,
I
apparently.
remember that guy wrestling from Memphis, and I remember that guy having like a match for the light heavyweight tournament against Brian Christopher, where Christopher won. But I remember it starting out with Flanagan going right away to a diving from the ring. It started right away after he was announced, and his opponent Flanagan, and then Flash Flanagan did like sprung up, ran through the ropes, and knocked Christopher over.
Yeah.
Suicide dive.
Yeah. So it did have a few options on it. So other than that, that was pretty much the week in wrestling for this week. So hopefully next week there'll be more with SmackDown 1000. So
right. So
anything else that's big news from you guys that should be on this week?
Yeah.
Lucha Underground had some interesting developments.
What would they get? were they again?
Taya returned after her wedding to Johnny Mundo was attacked by Matanza.
Yeah.
We also found out who unleashed Matanza onto the wedding. It was apparently Ricky Mundo, who is basically Johnny Mundo's biggest fan.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a couple of Ultimo Lucha Quattro setup matches with a tag match between the team of Phoenix and Mil Muertes and the team of the Mac and Dragon Azteca Jr. Since there's going to be a match between Phoenix and Azteca and a match between the Mac and Mil Muertes.
Mm-hmm.
And again, there was the main event was a match between Pentagon versus Reclusa, where Pentagon manages to defeat Reclusa, but not without a fight. And after the match, Marty made the save when Pentagon was going to actually break out the thumbtacks, and
then didn't Reclusa get a gas can? What were they going to do? What were they doing there?
They were teasing that they were going to light Pentagon Dark on fire, but he wound up blowing out the flame at the last, like pretty much literally as the show cut out, he was blowing out the flame.
I know Impact had the Go Home show tonight for Bound for Glory, and Allie, they showed an interesting vignette where Allie went to talk to the Sinister Minister for advice.
Mm-hmm.
And it turned out that Allie made a deal with him where her soul was supposedly going to hell.
Mm-hmm.
And she was wanting to go back to the underground to rescue all her friends that got closed in caskets. So maybe this is how Rosemary comes back and they tie in the whole Allie's World deal. So who knows? I believe that's still on hiatus unless there was a new episode that just came out. They had the Desi Hit Squad fight each other
mm-hmm.
in a throwaway match. Jack Evans made his Impact return in a match against Trevor Lee, Puma King from Mexico, and I'm trying to think of who else. Petey Williams, and Petey Williams won that match. Supposedly the storyline was they were all in a fatal four-way to try to impress Scarlett Bordeaux.
Mm-hmm.
Followed by Johnny Impact and Eddie Edwards lost to Kevin Killer Cross, Austin Aries, and Moose. They lost to them. There was a summit at the end. At the end of Impact, there was a summit with the OGs versus Conan and
LAX.
Yeah, LAX, Conan and LAX.
Not be confused with the Bullet Club OGs.
Right. So they got in a fight at the end. It was basically mostly a boring go-home match.
Yeah.
Or go-home show, mind you. So,
mm-hmm.
That's what that was.
Yeah. So basically, it seems like next week should be the bigger one, because then you're going to be having more of this of SmackDown 1000. So there should be at least something to go with it. So, but until next week, this was Whacked Out Wrestling, and we'll see you next time. And there is usually the Sunday show that also happens, where we take a look back at and do alternate commentary for a pay-per-view event. And you'll never know who shows up on the Sunday show. So, but for the Thursday show, I'm Thomas S.K. Green. With me is Joey the Caveman and John Roche.
See you next time.